Hey folks, I'm Joe, and today on Big Fast Customs, we're going to go through our Model A steering box and give it a few upgrades. Stick around. Hey folks, we're going to work on the steering column today. This is one of the parts of the chassis that I thought, oh, we'll just clean it up, throw some paint on it, and throw it back on the chassis. And honestly, for the steering box part, we probably could do that. The steering shaft does turn just fine, and I don't feel a lot of excessive play. I don't feel any play right now, but I don't have the steering arm on. I don't feel a lot of excessive play between the gears. The shafts aren't pulling in and out, so it seems to be in good condition. Even the shaft, you can see, I didn't clean this up at all. This wasn't rusty when I took the column off, so it's in pretty good shape. And I'm hoping when we get it open that we're going to find the internals are good and we can just clean them up and put them back together. But the column did have some problems. The biggest one being, this is the original column itself, the outer column, and it's cracked. I don't know if this will show up on the camera, but we've got a pretty big crack right there. And then we've got another crack around here and a crack around the side here. So basically, yeah, I guess you could probably weld this if you really wanted to, but I did have another one, so I've already got the other one painted, cleaned up, ready to go. It doesn't have any cracks in it, so I'm not gonna mess with the other one. One of the other things I needed was these control rods. If you know Model A's or seen Model A steering columns, on the back of the steering column, or on the top of the steering column behind the steering wheel, you have these two control rods. And one is for throttle, and one is for your spark advance. And these always get seized up if the column's left outside like this one was. I lucked out. I was able to drive the control rods on the bushing out of the top of the column, and then wire wheel these really good and work them out of the old bushing. So I was able to save the control rods. We don't have to replace those. They're a little rusty on the top, but I'll hit that with some paint and they'll look just fine. But I do have a new bushing for this to go into. The new bushing goes into the column, and these should be nice and tight. I already test fit them in the bushing. Brand new bushing, and they fit well, they turn good, so these will be fine. The biggest issue I had, and something that's going to require some upgrades to the steering box, is this piece here. And this is your headlight switch slash horn button tube, I guess. Basically, this goes on your steering, in the center of your steering wheel. This is your headlight switch, and it's supposed to be on the end of that, like that. This one is rotted off, and you can see that the tube's all rotted and bent and broken, and got a bunch of holes in it. So this isn't going to be doing much of anything. These pieces are $100. They come with the little switch on the end. I think they come with the horn button as well. If I have to, I'll buy one. But this piece is basically just a piece of tubing with the end kind of crimped into a square shape. So I'm going to try and make one because I have the switch part. If I can make one, great. If not, then maybe I'll buy one. But the real reason that this is a problem, not because I need the light switch or the horn or anything like that, it's because that shaft travels all the way through the steering column down to the end, and it comes out that hole in the end of the steering box. Now, this might look like it's just kind of dirty or whatever, but that's actually a felt washer in there, and that is the only oil seal for this box. And these are known to leak in that area. With the light switch rod not in place, it would just pour the fluid right out. There's nothing there to stop it. So what I did get, this is the original plate that goes on the end, and the headlight switch rod would go through that little hole in the middle, and you know, the felt washer's in here, and as long as that felt washer's doing its job, it would stop leaking. But it was a bad design. So I got this piece. You can see it's the same shape as the original plate, but now it's got a tube on it. And this tube actually, when it's installed, you can kind of see it goes way up past the top of the box. So that means no fluid from the box is going to be able to get out this hole, even if there's no shaft in it, because this is going to keep it all inside. So that's one upgrade we're going to do. The other upgrade we're going to do, and honestly I'm only doing it because I got the part with all the stuff I bought, is this top plate, top cover for the steering box. Basically it replaces this piece here, and the reason we're doing this, I imagine there's other people that make them. I know that Paul Shin makes these, but it was in a box of parts and it's brand new. This basically replaces the bushings that were originally in here with roller bearings. I don't know if you can see, there's roller bearings in there now. And also on this side, there's a modern seal in here now. So once I put this piece in and this this end plate tube, this will basically be a leakless steering box. So aside from being a two-tooth steering box, they weren't great, but they worked okay. The biggest complaint is always that they leak. So with these two upgrades, it's not going to leak, so we don't have to worry about that. Like I said, I'm thinking it's going to be okay inside, but let's get it torn apart, and I'll bring you guys over here. We'll tear it apart, and if there's something bad in there, we'll deal with it when we get there. I've got another box over here, but I think we're going to be in good shape, so let's get started. Okay, folks, well, that's everything being taken apart. I'm going to clean all this stuff up, and then I'll probably bring you back and do the reassembly. I don't know if I'll do it in time lapse or, you know, we'll do it all together, but if I haven't mentioned it before, for something like this, I'm going to hose as much of that grease out of there as I can. But what I like to use for cleaning stuff like this up is Castrol Super Clean. You can go to Walmart, get it in a big jug, like a 5-gallon jug or something like that. I usually buy 2 of those, and I dump them into a big plastic bin, and then I refill the jugs with hot water and put those in the bin. So you got, you know, basically 4 jugs of material in there, and or 20 gallons. I think they're 5 gallons. So yeah, 20 gallons. And it works a lot better in the summertime when it can sit out in the sun, but just putting hot water in there is good. And the Castrol Super Clean, it'll clean up. It doesn't like road tar or asphalt, but all this grease, a lot of this light surface rust, it'll clean all that off. If there's any paint on it, it'll eat that off. So I'll just toss this in the bin and let it sit in there for a day or two, and then when I take it out, I just kind of brush it all off, hose it off with water, and then it's usually ready to go. This stuff works really well. I'm not sponsored by Castrol at all. I'm not sponsored by anybody, so I'm telling you because it works for me, and I like to use it. When you see this again, it should be a lot cleaner. We'll get all these parts cleaned up, we'll get all the new parts ready, and we'll get everything put back together, and then this thing's going to have a leakless steering column on it. So, alright folks, we're back in the garage to get this steering box put back together. It's been a few days, you can tell because I'm wearing the same shirt, but I spent a lot of time cleaning up a lot of hardware, you know, the housings, painting the housings so that they look good, and inspecting everything. Everything looked to be in good shape with the exception of this thrust bushing that goes on the sector shaft, The original one was pretty chewed up, so I ordered a new one. It came in pretty quick, and now we're back in business. So I think we have everything to get this back together. So why don't I just bring you guys in a little closer, and we'll go through putting it back together. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to get this main shaft back into the housing. And in order to do that, we need the lower bearing, we need the upper bearing and the race, and we need this special adjustment bolt. So basically, we're going to put a little bit of oil on this bearing, put it down in the housing, then the main shaft's going to go into the bearing. We'll slide the upper bearing over the main shaft, the upper race over the main shaft, and then if you look, the housing has a bolt hole here, and the race has an indention in it. So we need to keep those aligned when we put it back together, and then when this bolt is tightened up in there, it'll actually push against the race, and that's what puts the preload on your bearings. So boop. Okay, so that's in place. Easy enough. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to pre-lube up this upper bearing. Ooh, this stuff is really, really thick. This is what will fill up the, this is what you use in the gearbox, the rear axle, the steering box, all of it uses this same lubricant. So now that we've got that, we're going to go ahead and slide that in here. So you see we've got the upper race, the upper bearing onto the shaft. The lower bearing is already in the steering box, and we're just going to insert this. And we want to get this upper race down in place. Probably going to take a little bit of tapping. Okay. All right, so we had to tap that race down in there. But now that it's in here, we can put this bolt in place. And we want to put the bolt in so that it puts some preload on the bearing. We don't want to over tighten this. If we over tighten it, we can crack that race, upper race, and then we got to get another one. We don't want to do that. So we tighten it down. We got a ways to go. I already don't have much preload or much play in this shaft, so that's good. But let's put a little bit of preload with this bolt, and then we'll lock it in. Okay, so we're at the bottom. I am not feeling a lot of preload, or a lot of slop. Roll it around a bit. Yeah, I don't feel any slop in that, so we did a pretty good job just sliding the upper race in. We're going to put just a little bit of preload. Or a little more preload, I should say. And now we're going to lock this down. Now we need to roll the box over, and this is our adjustment for the sector shaft. It's just a little bolt with a little screw with a lock nut on it. So we're going to put this in, and we're going to adjust it in just until it's basically flush with the bottom of this housing, the inside of this housing. I forgot to show you, but I did surface the end of this bolt so that it's nice and flat on the end. Sometimes, because of the hole in the end of the sector shaft, it starts putting a little nub on the end of this bolt, and you really need that to go away. So I did clean that off. It's nice and flat. And now we are flush. It's kind of probably hard to see down in there, but you can see the bolts flush with the bottom of the housing. So now we've got our sector shaft and our new sector housing. I again want to put some lube into these bearings just to help them out a little bit, since they've been sitting for who knows how long. Like I said, this is a brand new housing. I saw it said last time, I think you can get them from Paul Shin. I believe you still can get them from him, but a lot of the parts houses have them too, but they're like $100. So I'm glad I have one. But yeah, again, this has got roller bearings in it now instead of bushings, and it's got a nice modern seal on the end of it. So we're gonna put the sector shaft through there, nice and slow, up past that seal. Yeah, there we go. Nice. Okay. And we're going to install that down into place. No, we're not, dummy. See what happens when you're filming on YouTube and you get all excited. You forget to do all this simple stuff like install gaskets. We do need a little round gasket that goes on here. Little cork gasket. This seals between the two housings right in here. And I am going to put a little bit of sealer on there just to kind of give us a little extra protection, since this is supposed to be a leak-proof steering box now. We want to definitely make sure that that happens. So we'll seal the one side, we'll put a little bit of lube on the other side so that the housing can be adjusted without tearing this. And we're good to go. So that just fits right down in that recessed area. And get some of this sticky just put that around the top. You know, of course it's cork, so it's going to absorb some of the oil anyway, so but we definitely need to make sure that the upper housing can slide, so we can adjust all the gear lash. Now I can put the sector shaft and housing back on. There we go. Now, I showed you guys the other day, I don't know if I had it apart, but so in this, kind of hard to see. Let me see if I can rotate this and knock everything over. Okay, so in this hole here on the side, you can see it's a bit bigger than all the other holes. we've got a cam that goes in there. So this goes down in the hole, and then in the inside of it, it's this little cone-shaped piece that goes in there. And then in order to move this housing around, to adjust the lash on the gears, this is, you can see it's kind of, it's a cam. It's, you know, it's all off to one side, offset, and as you adjust it, it moves the housing around back and forth. So we're going to install that one. And I don't know what a good starting point is for it, so we're just going to set it wherever. The other three, just get some large washers and a nut. I did clean all the threads on these and make sure that they were all good to go. So we'll get these back on here. Okay, so we're snug down. The housing's flat. That's good. Okay, I'm gonna move this around just so I don't shove this through the windshield of the Camaro. And again, my end play is good, so I'm gonna put the bolt that goes back through the housing to clamp this in place. And we'll get that upper race clamped down. Since I have no intention of moving this again, we can go ahead and tighten this down well. Okay, let's put a lock washer on it. So again, no play in the shaft, so that's good. We've still got a lot of play here, so we're gonna throw that on the ground. Oh, that's the thrust washer. I heard something moving inside. I couldn't figure out what it was. It's the thrust washer. So we're gonna loosen this nut up for one. Why is this even locked down? Okay, so we loosen that up. We're gonna tighten this screw until we start to feel some resistance. And then we're gonna check our end play, tighten it some more, check our end play. I think we're good. I'm gonna back it off a little bit. No. Right there. No end play. All right, we're back. I just wanted to make sure that I understood the adjustments, which one did what, before I told you guys what to do. There's a lot of videos online how to rebuild these. This is actually my first Model A steering box rebuild, but it's not a real difficult steering box. So, I mean, anybody can do it. This is my first one, so if I can do it, you can do it. One website that I would suggest is modelabasics.com. They've got exploded diagrams. They tell you all the adjustments, not just for steering boxes, for a lot of other parts of an original Model A. So it's something good to check out. But for this, now we need to adjust the mesh of the gears and the lash. So the mesh is handled by this cam nut that's up here, and the lash is handled by this screw down here. So I've loosened up the 4 bolt or 4 nuts that go on this sector shaft housing, and now I have a steering arm, but it's still on the car. So I'm just going to use a pair of vice grips. Basically, we want to set this into the center, and you can use the the keyway on the steering shaft so that you know you're in the center. But basically turn it all the way to one extreme and then turn it back 1.5 turns. So right about there, we should be in the middle of our travel. And if I check, you can see we've got a bit of play we need to take out of there. So I'm gonna just make an adjustment on this cam nut, just slowly. And there's very, very little gap in there. I don't want to adjust it. You don't want to take it all out because then it'll start to bind. But that's pretty good. So in the center, we're good. We want to now rotate the main shaft back and forth to make sure that it's not binding at all. And that feels pretty good. Let's go to one extreme. And I back it off just a little bit. So we've got some play there. If we go the other way, we've got very little play here. So that means now we have to adjust this. So what we're going to do again is we're going to take it back to the middle. And we're going to make some adjustments here. Oof, that's binding. So we're going to go back the other way. Very little. Still quite a bit. So the idea is to get it even on both sides. You want the same amount of, I would say that's a little bit more, but I don't think there's much more adjustment on this, so that might just be due to wear. Go back the other way. I think that's about even now. Double check again. I mean, I could go through the trouble to measure the amount of lash, but I don't think it's that critical. It's probably a little looser in that direction, but it's not bad. So let's bring it back to the middle again. Very little here. So I think we're good. I'm going to tighten all these adjustments down. For all the nuts for the sector shaft. I'm going to pay close attention that this cam doesn't turn while I'm doing it. That's snugged up pretty good. Let me tighten these ones. That's good. I think that's more than acceptable for this, and there's no binding when we're going back and forth. This shaft is spinning freely. Still no end play here. No end play here. and I'm satisfied with the mesh of the gears. So I would say the steering box is done. The only thing I have now to do is to put the steering column back together on the box. So, okay folks, so now I need to get the steering column all back together. I told you already that I painted up the tube here, and I did get a new bushing. Stand up. The bushing here, brand new, you can get it from Schneider's. There's two different kinds. This kind has the little triangle on here. There's also a triangle inside the tube to line this up. This type is pressed in, or you tap it in with a block of wood and a hammer. There's another kind where you have to actually drill and tap this and put some screws in it. But luckily, that's not the type I have. But before I put it in, this bushing in here is basically just like a cotton braid. I'm gonna lube this up a little bit while it's out, and then we'll put it in there. One of the things that the instructions actually says is that the surface where the this bushing is going to press into needs to be absolutely clean. No paint on it, nothing. So make sure if you paint your steering column, or like I did, or if you've got some rust in there, you need to clean that out. If you don't, you risk the when you're trying to press this bushing in, you could split the steering column. We're going to insert this. We're going to line everything up. Looks like we're good. And I've got a little block of wood here and a hammer. Let's just try to drive that in. There we go. Come on. Okay, that looks like it. It's in. Take a look at it. Yeah, it looks nice and straight in there. It looks a little surprised. Whoa! Okay, so the other thing I have to do is install the control rods. So the control rods go into the two smaller holes, the eye holes there, and they run straight through and come out on this side, and then there will be a spring and a little arm on there for your spark and your throttle advance from the steering column. Okay, it's in place. Come on. There we go. Yay! That was a pain. Okay. Finally. So you can see what I was fighting with, trying to get those shafts to come out of these two little areas here. And that one just wanted to jump over to the other side for some reason. But they're in place now. We're good. They move good up here. Yeah, I think we're good to go. I am going to stand this up because I don't want to catch this upper bushing. I'm pushing this down, and we're right here. There we go. And it should just be nice, easy press down in place. Now let's see. We could go down a little further. I think. Let's double check. I've got another steering box here. Let's see how far on the other one is. Or was. Yeah, it was all the way down, so we gotta do a little bit of tapping. Get that all in place. block of wood. Use the little hammer. And we're there. Pick this thing up. We are not quite all the way down. A little bit further. Sorry guys, I keep going off the camera. This video is going to be all choppy. A whole bunch of little events just spliced together. Let's see, are we good? Yep, we are good. So then we move our cell phone out of the way and we add this bolt, which will now clamp this column in place. And then it's time for our little add-on down here. So when this thing originally is built, I told you that we're going to use this end plate that has this little tube in here. When you take this apart, let me get you closer. When you take this apart, inside this hole where you're going to put this now, there was a little cupped washer and what's left of a little felt washer. This was the original seal. You don't need these anymore. This is a question. I had to hunt around on the internet to make sure. I wasn't sure if I needed to drill this out so it would fit over this, but basically you don't need these anymore because now there's going to be no fluid that can leak past there. So we've got this seal. That is awful big. Let's check this one. Is this the same size? Yeah, they look the same. So we're going to put a little bit of Permatex on there so that we can seal that up. And then this is going to go together with this. This is the end piece that the switch can click onto. And you want to make sure that this little notch in here is facing the bottom of the steering box. And this gasket looks thicker. I'm going to go with the thicker gasket. I'm just going to stick that right on there. Line it all up. Yeah, that looks good. And then we're going to put a little bit of Permatex around this. Again, just a little bit. We just want to make sure that we've got a nice seal down here. So this piece, make sure you can see it. This piece slides in here like this. It doesn't matter which direction, as long as you line up the bolt holes. I bought new bolts because it was like $1. So we put the lock washers on the bolts. Bolts through here. And then we thread them into here. Tighten it down. And for us, that is it for now. I haven't made the new light switch rod yet. I don't need it for the test drive. I will make one, or I'll try to make one. If I can't make one, I'll replace it. But for now, this is all we need to do. We're in good shape. This box can go back on the car now, and this whole steering column. And yeah, we're almost ready for the test drive, guys.